Hi, I'm Stacy Conlee, and I'm going to be reading Goodnight Moon. When I get done with the first book, I'm also going to be reading the parody Goodnight Goon. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Goodnight Moon and then move on to Goodnight Goon. Goodnight Moon by Margaret Brown. In the great, great room, there was a telephone and a red balloon and a picture of the cow jumping over the moon. And there were three little brown bears sitting on chairs, and two little kittens, and a pair of mittens, and a little toy house, and a young mouse. A comb and a brush, and a bowl full of mush, and a quiet old lady who was whispering, "Hush." Good night, room. Good night, moon. Good night, cow jumping over the moon. Night light and the red balloon. Good night, bears, and good night, chairs. Good night, kittens, and good night, mittens. Night clocks and good night socks. Good night, little house, and good night, mouse. Good night, comb, and good night, brush. Good night, nobody, and good night, mush. And good night to the old lady whispering, hush. Good night, stars, and good night, air. Good night, noises everywhere. The end. Goodnight Goon by Michael Rex. This is a petrifying parody of Goodnight Moon. In a cold gray tomb, there was a gravestone and a black lagoon and a picture of Martians taking over the moon. And there were three little mummies rubbing their tummies. Two hairy claws and a set of jaws, and a loud screechy bat and a black hat. And a skull and a shoe and a pot full of goo, and a hairy old werewolf who was hollering, boo! Good night, tomb. Good night, goon. Good night, Martians taking over the moon. Bones in the black lagoon. Good night, mummies, and good night, tummies. Good night, claws, and good night, jaws. Good night, moans, and good night, groans. Good night, screechy bat, and good night, hat. Skull and good night, shoe. Night creature and good night goo. And good night to the old werewolf hollering boo. You get under there. Night monsters everywhere. Just for Gavin. The end.